My name's David Carr. I'm here to talk about WordPress for Toastmasters, which I think is a better way to run a Toastmasters Club website. It's basically something that I cooked up for myself about 4 years ago. As a vice president of education of a club that was having some recruiting and marketing challenges. I wanted a better way of advertising things like an open house. And so, I just wanted a better way of being able to publish to the web, use tools that were more like professional tools than I found with the Free Toast host. The Free Toast host is a fine solution. It was created by Toastmasters volunteers, at least initially. And it's designed to do exactly what a Toastmasters club needs to do. What I've tried to do is see if I can layer some very similar functions on top of the WordPress platform. And I'll explain why it's a good thing as we go along. But it started out as something that was just what I needed for my club. And about a year ago, I started offering it publicly. We talked to people from other clubs. They said, well, that's interesting what you're doing. How can we get ourselves one of those? So I've cooked up a couple of ways that you can get access to the same software or a service that includes the software for free. It's not a money-making venture for me. I am trying to avoid it being a money-losing venture. And there is a call out for donations or for advertising or something to support it along the way. So if it actually became as big as Free Toast Host, I would need to find some additional money along the way. Right now, I'm able to offer it to anybody who wants to take advantage of it for free. And there are actually a couple of different free options. So I'll go through those along the way as well. But I think it helps to understand what I'm talking about. It'll be easier if I show you than if I tell you. So I always like to start off with a search for an awesome Toastmaster. And it turns out that my home club ranks #1 in all the universe that Google indexes for awesomeness. Now, that's obviously not a terribly meaningful search. Not too many people are searching for awesome Toastmasters. They like to find awesome Toastmasters, but they don't know up front that that's what they want. But if you search for the name of my city in Toastmasters, you'd find out that we come out up top as well. That's a little bit more meaningful. Some people are going to go to toastmasters.org and they're going to use the Find a Club tool. So what I really want, even more than people finding me in search, I want what they find when they come to our site to be something that's going to be impressive. And I think what you're going to see here as we explore this is that there's a lot going on this site. There's a lot of activity, quite a bit of use of video. And we have some special pages we've set up. We have this whole video guide to a Toastmasters meeting. So the concept here is to show people a little bit about the different phases of a meeting, what table topics are like, and what it's like for a couple of people to answer the same question. What a speech is like. In our club, we have a humorist every week. So we got some samples of these things, and we also had how we evaluate speakers in Toastmasters. And on a regular basis, if a club member does a great speech and we recorded it on video, I'll ask their permission to make it public so that we can show off the great things that we're doing. And within this same experience, I can also sign up to give a speech at a future meeting. So if I click here, it's funny, it won't do it when I wanted to. It didn't prompt me for a password there, I guess because I was logged in earlier. Normally it would prompt me for a password, but you can see that the site knows who I am now. And if I click on any of these things to take the role, I'll be added to the list, and I can remove myself. And the other thing that comes up quite frequently is if you're the Toastmaster of the day or the VP of Education, you may have a great meeting lined up, but you have some gaps in it. So you get on the phone with people and you get them to commit to speak. So I can also go in and edit this and have a drop-down list of all the members and assign them. If I'm putting in a speaker, there's also a place where I can choose the manual project. Okay, so that is not too dissimilar from what is available on Free Toast. I actually have some ideas about how this needs to be re-engineered to make it better. You've heard that there's this revitalized educational program coming, so some of the items on this list are going to change, but I think we're still going to be looking to get people signed up to fill roles at our meeting. I don't think that's going to change. Another concept we came up with here was I can recommend somebody for a role. All right, give this a moment. The internet is taking a second there. Come on. Come on, internet, you can do it.
That's something that I've recognized when I run these shows, is that your internet connection is slowed down on other.
Well, we're using the same connection for the video as we are to try and access.
But it's using more of the resources for the actual show, and right. I'll often go into my email and it takes forever to get there. I don't think it's a problem.
So one of the concepts we came up with here too is if we're trying to get somebody to fill a role, we can go into this recommend you for a role tool, and we can see when this person last filled that role. So latest served as Toastmasters Day pretty recently. Oh no, actually that's last year. Oh. So later, you haven't this in a year. And I'm going to go ahead and send that out to her because I know her well enough that she's not going to be insulted to get that. And she will actually get an invitation to fill that role. And actually, in that case, she can click once. So it's supposed to be a one-click agreement where she doesn't necessarily have to log in. She can just click to say, yes, I agree, and she'll be signed up for that role. And when we have some other things going on here where we have a system of automated reminders set up. So if our meeting's on Friday, on Wednesday afternoon, a batch of reminders going out. So remember, you signed up to be a speaker. Make sure you show up on Friday. Or if you're not going to be able to show up, let us know. Okay? We can send out the agenda also with a note on top. And see, this is a short agenda because we're doing a special meeting, but normally that would list everybody who'd signed up for every role in the meeting, and we can add a custom note on top. Let's see. Just losing my space. Yeah, that's just this email button here, where I would just add the message that I want to have included with my message. I'd click send, and it would go out to the group.
To the whole group.
To the whole group, right? So, so we do that typically, like right after Friday's meeting. Somebody will update the roster, so we'll pass around a sign-up sheet. So we don't necessarily assume that everybody's going to come in and fill out, sign up for roles online. We can also do a printable sign-up sheet that we're going to take into the meeting. We'll get people's John Hancock on there, and then again, just like with the process with having called around and gotten people to fill the roles, the Toastmaster of the day or the VP of Education can go in. Let's see. And I'm actually going to go over to this demo site to show a couple of other things. So here's our member directory. And if we're not logged in,
David, I'm just seeing the awesome.
Okay.
That screen.
That is the same
mistake
I made the other day.
Yep.
You are seeing it? Well, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Now I'm back on you.
Okay, hold on a moment.
Yeah, when you do a share, you can share different pieces. So that's, and when you it just stays on that. That's the WordPress demo.
Are you seeing the demo? Yeah, demo. That's the members.
Toastmasters. I think this is probably where you want to go.
Right. And are you, as I scroll down, are you seeing Abraham Lincoln as president of the club?
I'm not seeing you scroll at all. It's just right at the top, right at the title.
Huh.
We'll stop sharing that and go back, and there we go. Now I think we're at the right place because I see Abraham and George. Or John Adams, I'm sorry.
All right. So these are the people whose profiles are showing up publicly, which would include the officers and anybody who had clicked a checkbox when they set up their profile saying, I'd like some or all of my details to be public. And I'll show you where that's set up in a moment. But also, you know, if I'm a member, we're going to make this directory available to you. And this is a little anti-hacking thing that they had to put in there. But so if I'm logged in, then we'll see Abraham Lincoln's phone number.
Okay. That's great.
There's also a place where you can put in a status, and that would be something like, I'm going to be away for the next couple of weeks, so don't call me. And you can put an expiration date on that status message. And the one thing I meant to explain along the way is when you're logged in, there's a distinction between the public website that you're viewing. And when you're logged in, you'll see this menu across the top of different options that you only see when you're logged in. And then there's the dashboard. So I describe the dashboard as kind of the behind the scenes portion. This is where we administer things related to the site.
Yeah, this is all familiar to me, being a WordPress, or our website is hosted as a WordPress site.
Yeah, well, and I guess one of the arguments that I would make, aside from the fact that I think it's a better publishing and marketing platform, is that because it's standard, if you have a VP Public Relations who spends a lot of time on the website and learns how to use WordPress, they're at least learning a transferable skill if they're learning WordPress, because it's used lots of different places. If they are learning free toast, that's something that's only good in the Toastmasters context. So if I want to edit my profile, here is where I would come to do that. And there's a place where you can add a picture of yourself. And this was the checkbox to allow my name and my social media links to be shown publicly. Optionally, you could also allow your email to be shown publicly. And that's more for the benefit of members who maybe have a small business and they don't want to keep anything secret. They want this to be another professional profile out on the web. They can put in their business address and have another link to their business website. So that in addition to other members coming in and seeing whether they're available to fill a spot for the next week, maybe they see a business opportunity that they can get together on. The other thing in here that's custom is we built in a whole series of reports. And this was based mostly on feedback from one particular vice president of education who had built out something very similar to this in Microsoft Access. But what she was having to do is after every meeting, she would jot down the statistics of what everybody had done in the meeting, and she'd have to punch them into Access. I said, well, why don't we take the same concept, some of the same visualizations, and you could capture some more of that data automatically as people are signing up for roles and save yourself some work. So let's say. So we have this for competent communicator and competent leader right now. It'll actually show you people who've already finished their CC and are moving on, have done sort of higher numbers of these things. And there's one for CL as well. I haven't tried to build out something parallel for the advanced educational awards. But often what you're trying to do is kind of shepherd people through those first few steps and tell them what are the other things that they need to do. Let's say.
There was a question there. Can you just look at any person and see the past roles that they've served?
Yeah, let's say. Back to my demo site. I can click here and I get a view of just that person's statistics, I believe. So actually I haven't worked on this as much recently.
Okay.
But this is definitely a part of the system that could probably stand some improvement, but it would benefit from feedback from people who have ideas about what to add. Now, I actually got an email message come in, saying something about the questions thing was all filled up. So let me go back and clear out the things that were just people saying hello. And technical difficulties ones. Okay. And Chris says it's cool that we were able to see the last time the person performed the role. Thank you, Chris. Does Free Toast Host use WordPress? No, the Free Toast Host uses something that they invented themselves. I mean, I think it might be based off a product that's sold in some other context. Somebody told me authoritatively, but I don't know whether this is actually true, that it was actually based on Microsoft SharePoint. Don't know if that's true. Let's see. Can you look at any person in the past roles they served? Okay, I think we sort of covered that. Can show photos, avatars for the members.
I'm not seeing all of those.
This was on the questions panel.
Yeah,
you might have to click the
some of them were there in
Q&A. Oh, well, apparently that fills up at some point, and then people couldn't ask more. Okay. So that's why I'm clearing it out. So I'm sorry, we're still figuring out webcast technology to some extent. I think Chris was asking maybe to show how we would add somebody's profile photo, and just a profile image, and that is just way down the bottom of this profile screen. There is something that says avatar, choose image. And we can either upload a photo or we can choose one from the library that we already had, which I'm going to do in this case. And ignore that error, that's because it's demo data. The person doesn't actually have an email address. And we should see that Andrew Jackson, I don't think that's what he looks like, but that's what he looks like in WordPress for Toastmasters world at the moment. One of the more important things I wanted to show was just the editing experience, because everything that I add on top is kind of extra special frosting. But a large part of the point of using this is that you get access to the WordPress editor. So if I want to edit my home page, and it's taking a moment to load, but you'll see that it opens up in basically a web-based word processor. And it's going to have a few extra buttons that you wouldn't see in but basically we can go through and we can make things bold or italic, and then if we wanted to add a link, we would click this little chain link icon and we would put in the web address, and when we click add link, that would make it a link. And I'm not actually going to mess up the club website homepage, so I'm just going to leave those changes unsaved. However, also I talked about adding the video, and so if we want to do that, is a good way of adding newsy content to your site. And this makes a difference in terms of search engine optimization, as in, does Google find your website and does it rank it highly? Google comes back and searches sites frequently and indexes them thoroughly if it sees new content cropping up on a regular basis. So that's a reason update things frequently. And again, we could copy and paste some content from Microsoft Word, and usually that comes through fairly well. You might have to futz with the formatting a little bit. If you want to add a photo, you would again use the upload tool or choose from your photo library. So this is the same basic tool that we used when we were uploading photos. See, I'm on the Club Awesome site now. So I'm going to paste in a photo of our new building. So this is the new location that the club just moved to. I put that on the page with the directions to the club. And we do have some things that we can do without even uploading it again or cropping top-based tool like Photoshop. We can decide to change the size of it. We can center it. We can align it to the right. So this, if we had the text there, would line up to the right of the text. And one of my favorite tricks is how it handles video, which has actually gotten a lot better in just the last couple of versions of WordPress. It used to be you would have to copy some code and paste it into your blog post, but now you can just actually copy and paste the web address for that YouTube video, and the video player gets inserted automatically. One other aspect to this is we're using this as part of a broader social media strategy. So when we want to promote one of these posts, we make it easy to go down to the bottom and have a whole row of little buttons saying share to Facebook, share to Twitter, share to LinkedIn. Just people, if you make it easy for them. The other side of that is we typically have somebody at our meetings who takes a lot of photos. So photos of Toastmasters in action, speaking, being dynamic, having fun. Things that might make people who see this in a friend's feed think maybe Toastmasters is something I want to be involved in. So Amy's great at posting these photos. She never does this. She leaves this to me. I always come in, I like it, and I add a note saying join us any Friday. I put in the club web address, and I've taken some time to make sure that what shows up in that little preview on Facebook also looks good. So you think about this as you're writing your headlines, as you're choosing the photos to feature on the home page. How is it going to look when it shows up on Facebook? Because that is actually a great way of magnifying your reach. If you can get other people to share content, if you can reach people who aren't in your personal network but are in somebody else's personal network, that can be a way of bringing people in the doors of the club. So I've talked almost entirely about the marketing aspects so far. Let's go into how we would customize one of these agendas. Well, here again, I mentioned that this is a special meeting we have coming up, so we don't have the whole usual list of roles. Now, a more typical meeting agenda would look something like this. And each of these events, each of these meetings is set up in the WordPress system as if it was another blog post in some ways. So if we went in to edit, and you can have events that are not Toastmasters meeting events. I'll go over that a little bit more in a minute. But you could have, say, an open house event that would also appear on your calendar and that you could also promote on social media in other ways. In fact, you probably promote that more than you'd promote just the agenda page. But if I go in to edit this page, what we're going to see is a little bit different, because this isn't a page of content, photos and text. It's a page of things that people can sign up for. And I've been working on making this easier to work with. Let's see, I might have to I had to change the magnification on that a little bit for everything to show up right. So these are placeholders. And actually, until recently, if you went to this page, you would have seen a bunch of code, not programming code exactly, but little placeholder codes for each of these speaking slots or other things. And even though it was a simplified form of coding, other officers who tried to edit the agenda would freak out when they saw, they would make some little typo and it would be messed up. So what we have now is you can go in and just double click on each of these things and you get a little editor. So this is how I would decide that for this particular meeting, maybe because somebody's giving a longer speech, we're only going to have 2 speech slots instead of 3, instead of our usual 3. And if we have 2 speeches, we're also going to have 2 evaluators. And I'll come back to this more a little bit later when I show how to set up a new website. One of the things I meant to do along the way, just to give you some context for why I'm so high on WordPress, is just, again, it's not just for Toastmasters Club websites. It's for all sorts of publishing, all sorts of social media and web and online marketing. So if you look at a number of high-end publications, these are actually customized WordPress sites. It's sort of like mine is a customized WordPress site, just with a bigger budget. Corporate marketing sites. So these obviously would benefit from, a lot more marketing horsepower and design than we might have available. But there's a lot of creativity within a Toastmasters club. You probably do have people who can blog or people who can take photos. So, or certainly we have people who speak. And if we can capture some of that speech on video, then we have content for a site. I didn't tell you too much about me, but I'm showing this for 2 reasons. One, to try and show off that I'm a big shot. I have a blog on Forbes. I'm a former technology journalist. I'm only doing a little bit of blogging for Forbes right now. I'm doing mostly corporate writing and some web and online consulting as well. But also, this is a WordPress site. So when I want to file a story, I'll log in here. I'll format it using the exact same tools that I would use to format a blog post for the Club Awesome website. Another publication that runs off of WordPress. This is one of mine that is related because this is the base scheduling plugin that's used for the system. And you can see that I'm actually promoting yet another webinar, which is a webinar on webinars about the approach that I've used to registering people and marketing these things using RSVP Maker. So RSVP Maker is a general purpose event scheduling application where the idea is people come in and they RSVP. They either say that they're coming or they could say that they're not coming so that you stop pestering them. But what happened with WordPress for Toastmasters is essentially that I had this need for a scheduling application. I realized I could adapt for my purposes, and then I layered the stuff about role signups on top. And I mentioned a couple of different kinds of free. if you go to the WordPress for Toastmasters site, there's something here saying, get a free club website, sign up now. And if you click here, a sign up form. And we're going to go through this and create a sample site. But there is also software that I've published. So this is free open source software. WordPress is open source, which means that anybody can download, can modify the code, will improve the code, and then contribute it back to the community. And that's one of the things that gives it momentum, is that the Atlantic may have the need to do something custom. Maybe they have a need to do something just better that a lot of other people could also make use of. So they may develop a bit of code on their own, contribute it back to the community, and it becomes part of the core WordPress platform. So this is the page you would come to if you wanted to download the software and install it on your own server. That's something that would be more appropriate for if either you are or you have somebody in your club who is a techie or a web developer, web designer. Maybe they have a server space that they'll give you for free, or maybe your club decides that it wants to have a website at its own domain, which but the sites that you set up for free through the setup that I'm providing, an address on the toastmost.org domain. So it'd be something like myclub.toastmost.org. If you want your own independent domain, then you as of right now, you need to set up your own server. It's not the most difficult technical thing to do, but it definitely requires somebody who has some patience for futzing around with software. And one other thing that I need to cover, just to make sure I explain what I'm talking about when I say WordPress, is there actually are some other clubs that have WordPress sites, but it's not the WordPress that I'm talking about. So this is Plantation Toastmasters blog.wordpress.com. And it is one of my local clubs. They actually have a free Toast host site as well. I think they use that really as their main marketing website, or at least, well, I don't know. They use that as the one where if they do online signups, they probably do it over there. At some point, for the reasons I'm talking about, probably. They set up a WordPress blog as well. I'm not sure where we're getting an echo there. But the WordPress blog is set up on the WordPress.com service. Is based on the exact same open source software, but this is a company that backs the WordPress open source project, but runs its own. So this is a little bit more like signing up for Facebook. It's considered a social media website for people who like to blog. And the distinction there is my software, unfortunately, cannot be added to because the people who operate WordPress.com only support certain configurations of the software, and my plugins are not on that list. So that's just the way it goes. But what I'm offering here is something very similar. In fact, it's using the same technology that WordPress.com uses to host multiple sites on top of the same domain. We're going to create the same sort of thing over here. And
Did I lose your sound, David?
Now I'm shutting up for a change. That's okay. So I'm gonna put in my email address, my basic information that I'm going to use to sign up for this website. It's important that I make sure that I have my time zone set correctly, because of the reminder functions. Those aren't going to work correctly. And also, this is a silly little question, because there are spam robots that run around the web filling in anything that looks like a form with garbage. And so I was starting to get, cheap Nike sneakers.toastmos.org. But hopefully, if they're real Toastmasters, they know that the slogan of Toastmasters is where leaders are made. And if I have to get fancier than that with spam prevention, I'll deal with it when I get to that point. So as soon as it's going to send me an email with all the same you see here, and it's going to a website. It's not going to be a very exciting website to start with. At one point, I experimented with trying to see if we could import content from your old site, but it didn't always work, so I stopped doing it. So here we have a blank home page, but all we need to do is start filling it in with great content about our club. Now, when you first create one of these sites, there's a WordPress setting that says discourage search engines from indexing this site. So basically, if Google happens to find this site, your site is going to say, go away, we're not ready to be public yet. But you can take this web address and email it to your club. After you get a little bit further along, maybe you send it out to all your members, say come in and kick the tires, and see if you agree that this is in fact an improvement, and we should make a change. So to log in, I'm going to have to use this long, complicated password, and Jim actually has a video he just did on how to deal with passwords. We all need to know how to deal with better.
Our last show was about.
So you can, once you log in, be able to change that password is the important thing. No, you don't need to remember the string of gobbledygook forever. You can also tell your browser to save the password for you, which maybe that's good enough. If you use the same machine all the time to come in and edit the site, that might be just fine. So again, now we have a blank website. If I want to add some content, I would go to the home page and click Edit Page. And I can start adding my text and images from here. I probably should spend a moment just on this menu down the side of the page. Dashboard Home gets you to a sort of this backstage welcome page. Let's see. There we go. And this gives you a number of prompts about the things that you need to do to get your site all set up and in business. Jetpack is something that you can activate to track statistics, like the number of visits to your site. You might want to do that, or you could turn it off. Posts is where you would put blog posts. RSVP events is related to the RSVP Maker plugin, so this is all your events in the system. Media is your photos that you upload go. Also, you can upload, say, a PDF to the repository on the site and include that in a web page. A PDF would show up as a link when you insert it into the page, and your pages. So this is another way we could navigate through our pages, is just by looking at a listing of them. And actually, by default, a WordPress site starts out with a listing of all your blog posts on the home page. I do create a welcome page and set that to be the front page, and set up a members page, a page for the calendar, and then a page with some boilerplate information about Toastmasters International. Let's see, and then users, the main function that you would use here, or at least that we want to be using fairly often, is adding members. And you can either add them one at a time, or there's also a way of downloading a spreadsheet from the Toastmasters International website. So they'll give you a spreadsheet of all your currently enrolled members with their email addresses. You should check to make sure that those are actually their current email addresses. But if you go out and get that, what you can do, and this is all fake information, by the way. These are not real people. These are popular baby names. We can copy and paste that in here and click post. And all right, so they should all get an invitation message to come in and log into the website for the first time. Now, if you're just testing, maybe you just want to pick out the information about your officers and import that, and have your officers play around with it for a little while before you decide whether to invite everybody else in. But either way, it is something that you can do to get things kickstarted. And then once your officers in, you go into settings, Toastmasters. Now we can specify who the different officers are. Okay. And the officers will automatically get a promotion. They'll get some editing rights on the site. I'm not going to do them all here. There are a few other options here. We're just going to leave them at the defaults for right now. And right up top, you'll see where it says, yes, this website is open for business, or no, I'm still testing. So that's where you can change that. And you can also disable any email being sent from the website. I don't think that includes the invitations to new members, but and again, the time zone is also on this screen. That's actually repeated from someplace else in the system. Now we'll notice that there's a prompt up top. So there's actually going to be a series of prompts reminding you to do some setup chores. So it wants me to set up my meeting schedule and roles. And this is where we're going to define a template for our typical meeting and our typical schedule. It doesn't mean we can't vary from that, but it's good to have a starting place. And we could select that we meet the first and third Monday, or maybe it's every Monday, and put in the time of day. And again, we can go down and customize this list. I showed you how we could alter one that exists, but if we wanted to add an additional role, I would just create a blank line. And there's a couple of special buttons here. One's called Toastmasters role, and one's called Agenda Note. So Toastmasters role was where I would add a role that only exists in my club. And Agenda Note would be where we add some kind of stage directions. Okay, so we made those couple of changes. There's also something for on the agenda, there's a sidebar area on the left-hand side. And by default, it has the club mission put in there. But you could also have something like a dues reminder. Or maybe you have something here about the upcoming district conference. So any kind of reminders that you want to post, you can put in this space. Again, I'm going to save changes. And when I do that, what it does is it tries to project out all those dates. So we said we're meeting every Monday. This should show every Monday. I'll actually make an exception here because that's President's Day. I think that's right. And this is the 4th of July. We're not going to meet then. But all these other dates, we think we're going to meet. You know, I could go back and change this later if I had to, but I'm going to post this months in advance so that our members who are ambitious and want to sign up months in advance have the opportunity to do so. And eventually I would need to go back and add to this list. Also, if I update the template, it'll give me an option to update these roles. If I go out and view any of these things, we should see our sign up form. Okay, including the custom role that we added. And if we go to see the agenda, if people had signed up for these things, their names would be filled in. We see this little bit that we added to the sidebar. And because we filled in our officers, the officers are also automatically showing up on here. And this usually works pretty well. You can run into issues where if you have a long agenda, maybe it doesn't all fit neatly on one page. As a tactic to be able to neaten things up, I put in this export to Word function. So you can basically take all that content, dump it out to a Word file, and make it pretty. Okay, so from here you could reformat it as you like. Let's say, and I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I haven't been watching the questions coming in. Idea batch upload for inactive members. Well, one of the things it does now is if you go back and you get the spreadsheet from Toastmasters International again and import it a second time, it'll try and pick out what the differences are. So it'll try and add the people who are new, and it'll give you the option to delete or remove the people who are no longer in the club. And I do have a screen where we keep track of former members, so their data isn't all thrown away, but we don't want to show them on the active members listing that people are concerned they're trying to fill roles for the week's meeting. Let's see. Chris asks, can a member use your system to track their progress? Can they see every speech they've given? Yeah, they can see a history. You know, some of that. Again, that's one of the newer parts of the system. Hasn't gotten a lot of love in the past year, so that, you know, that might be something that could stand improvement. But sign up for a demo account, Chris. Poke around. Maybe you'll have some suggestions. That would be good. Let's see.
Nested menus.
Oh, and Chris also asks about the brand new website already has the header with the logo and several menu headings. Yeah, it's actually not the plugin. There's let's see. Wait a minute. I gotta go back into screen sharing mode here.
There you go.
Yeah. Exciting hall of mirrors. So there is also a theme I created called Lectern, and that's what you're seeing on the new site. And when we look at this, it doesn't actually show the Toastmasters banner up top. I had to go through several rounds of review with the Toastmasters brand police, and then also the people who approve themes for distribution on the WordPress.org repository. So I thought I was done with my grief when I got through the WordPress.org with the Toastmasters brand police, but then it turned out that I couldn't distribute the trademarked Toastmasters banners through WordPress because everything's supposed to be open source and freely licensed. However, there is a way around that. Let's see. Let's go back to Club Awesome. Sure. We're going to wrap up in a few minutes. I've actually gone longer than I intended to. But from the public site, if you don't like the way the site works, you can there are a bunch of things you can change by clicking the Customize button up top. And this also appears. There is a section on the administrator's dashboard that says Appearance. Customize is one of the options under that. This is taking a moment to load. So the workaround I figured out is when you sign up on Toastmasters.org, this is automatically a default banner is already put in place. If you were installing an independent website and used the Lectern theme, this is the little tool you would use to choose one of these banners and to import it into your site and specify it as the banner. But this does also mean that with any of these sites, you can choose to change that option. We say get banner. And we'll see that we have a different color scheme here. And there's a ton of other things that you can modify here. You can modify the menus. Scott, who was on the session, I was trying to give him some one-on-one coaching the other day, and one of the things that confused him is he was creating a new page, but it wasn't showing up on the menu. So that actually is a separate step where you decide which pages you want to appear on the menu in which order. So there's a menus editor. We can change some things about the color. We could change the background color of this site to pink. And again, this is the live site, so I'm not going to do that to my friends, but we could change what's the header text color? I forget. At any rate, there's, well, let's see. What does that do? Oh, it's the headline text up top here, changed color. Again, we're not going to save those changes. We're going to exit out of there. I guess one thing when I show this to people and say that it's simple, one of the things I run into is, maybe what I think is simple is not what everybody thinks is simple. But I would say that it, even if it's not simple for you, it is powerful. It's worth learning. There are books out there. You can sign up for, a WordPress.com site and look at their documentation. So there are lots of ways you can learn to get good with this stuff. And then I can help you with the stuff about how to make it work well for Toastmasters purposes. So, let's see. I'm sharing all my screens here. At some point, I was supposed to show me show the tell you what I'm going to tell you slide. Forgot about that. And the one about how to ask questions. But here is all my contact information. I mentioned that I'm doing another webinar on giving webinars. Even though I'm not necessarily an expert on it, I have some things to add about how you can put on a low-cost webinar using the RSVP Maker plugin. If you're interested in that, tune in this time next week. I certainly want people to get in touch with suggestions, feedback. I have had a couple of people offer that they have some programming or design skills, and maybe they can help me improve some of these things faster than I could do as a one-man show. So that would be wonderful. I encourage everybody to go out and do great things with this. And I will stop screen sharing and take one last look at are there questions? Please show the menus. I'm still not quite there, Scott says. Okay. All right. One more time through menus. Because I hinted at that and then didn't show it. So that was cowardly of me. I'm sorry, Scott. Let's see. Share this. And okay. So how about we do this on the demo site so that I'm not messing up my live site. I mentioned you could do it through customized. Let me just show you the other method, which in some ways I find a little bit easier actually. So under appearance, the menus here are themes, and there are some choices of themes, but I'm really steering everybody strongly towards Lectern because the TI approved one. There's the customized, but there's also a separate menus screen. So let's go there. Try and make things a little bit easier to see, actually. Okay. So there are a number of different things that are going on here. But what's shown to the left are the pages that are in your system, which is typically what you want to add to the menu. And members actually wasn't showing up on the menu, so we could add that. So I'm going to check the page that I want to add, and I say add to menu. And then if I want to reorder these, I can drag them around a little bit. Or if I want one to be sort of indented under the other, and we'll go back and look at what that looks like on the website, I can just drag it to the right a little bit to indent it. It is also possible to change the labels that appear. So maybe I set it up as calendar, but you want it to be events, or you want it to be meetings. So we can do all that. We can save the menu. And actually, before I leave this page, there was a checkbox down there. See. Sorry, the page is still loading. Okay. There is a checkbox down the bottom that says auto add pages. So if that was checked, every time I added a page, it would show up at the end of the menu. The problem is if you have a lot of pages on your site, you know, it could become too long to really fit on the menu comfortably. So I typically don't leave that checked, but you can. Also, you might have a page that you're only doing for a limited time for a special promotion, what marketers call a landing page. So your landing page might be something that doesn't go on the menu, but it's something that you post out to social media and you bring people in and they see, I don't know, that they can join at a discount this month or something, or their first 5 months dues free if they join this month because you're trying to meet one of those recruiting challenges. So not every page necessarily shows up on the menu, but you can alter that. And now we'll see that, let's see, calendar got changed to meetings, and join our club is a sub menu under members. So I think that is all I have time for today. I thank everybody who tuned in. You know, one of the main things that this project could use is other people who are talking it up so it doesn't sound quite like I'm such a raging egomaniac. Maybe I am, but I don't necessarily want to admit it.
Stop screen sharing.
We will stop screen sharing so that we can say goodbye. So this is goodbye for Dave Carr, and I'll give you a something about Geeks on Tour.
Oh, sure. If folks are interested, we have a weekly show on smartphones and tablets. We use this technology to present live, and it's also recorded on YouTube. So check out geeksontour.com and look for the weekly show.
All right. So if your smartphone is outsmarting you, these are the guys to say. Thanks everybody who tuned in, and have a great week.
Very cool.